Hey guys, welcome back to Sad Dad. My name's Dave Abkary and I am a comedian out of Fresno, California, and this is a podcast where I sit down with my fellow funny friends, my fellow comedians, and we talk about dads. Hi, how are you? How's your week been? I'm back in Fresno. I was gone last week. Doing some shows down in Southern California with my buddy Matt Cole, down in the OC, Orange County. I was down there. And it was fun. It was kind of wild. Orange County, it's in Southern California, and California's a real liberal state, and it's near LA and San Diego, which are both like, big liberal cities in a big liberal state. But Orange County is kind of this weird little pocket of like conservative, like Republican, Republicans and I can't tell you why, I mean, I don't know. It's like the suburbs, everybody kind of moves out of the cities into the suburbs, and where money goes, I guess so do more conservative mindsets. And but it's a different, like, I live in the Central Valley. I'm surrounded by conservative people all the time, and like here where I'm from, it's like it's okay to be that, it's okay to be a conservative or a Republican type around here, and I'm not one of those. I'm pretty left leaning. I'm a bleeding heart liberal snowflake, but we get along. Where I'm from, it's like, it's a Republican guy. I bump into him and he's like, you voting for Trump? And I'm like, no. You voting for Bernie? He's like, no. And he's like, go fuck yourself. Like finger guns. Like it's fun. Like it's fun. We have a good time. We coexist. But being down in those Republicans down in Orange County, they're different. I think that's what happens when like you're a thing that you're not supposed to be in a place. If you follow, like you get super like aggressive, like like the Republicans down there act like they're like the 300 Spartans holding the hot gates at Thermopylae, like, against the weird like liberal horde, socialist horde, I guess. I don't know. I was outside this bar in Orange County, and I was smoking a cigarette, which that's a whole thing. We'll talk about it later. But there's this old guy out there, and I literally go, nice night tonight. Nice night. It was nice. It's been cold in Fresno where I'm from, and I'm down there and I'm outside this bar. I'm going to do some comedy with my friends, and this old guy was standing there, and I'm just enjoying the night, trying to make conversation with a stranger, right? And this guy goes, well, it's supposed to rain tomorrow. But it doesn't matter because we don't have any dams to hold the water, right? Because all the Democrats are building that stupid high-speed rail train, right? And then the gas tax, it didn't even do anything to fix the roads, right? And nobody even knows where that money's going. And then they worded it all funny on the ballot, that's how they did it, and that's how they tricked everybody. And like, do you like your job? Do you want to keep your job? Well, it's a good thing Hillary didn't win, and you better be voting Trump, otherwise you're going to be overwhelmed with like Muslims and nuclear war. And I'm like, whoa, like I'm just grateful I don't have to wear a jacket right now. That's where I'm at. I don't know. It was wild. It was fun shows though, man. It was a good time back in Fresno. We had some fun shows this week. The Tuesday, Wednesday shows this week. The Tuesday show at DeChico's in Old Town Clovis was an absolute blast. Had Scott Powers and Becky Lynn up to do those shows. We'll talk more about Becky in a second here. And then our Wednesday show was fucking off the chain at Full Circle Olympic on Wednesdays. If you're in the greater Fresno Clovis area, come out, man. It's Wednesdays are a fucking blast. And then our Monday show was kind of a dud. I don't know if that was because it was Martin Luther King Day. I kind of fucked up, like when I book these shows, I book them, weeks, months in advance, and I didn't realize Martin Luther King Day I just booked 5 white dudes for my show. Like, oops, maybe a little representation would have been nice. My bad. I'm sorry, but I don't know. It was fine. The comedians are fine. It was just super light turnout and kind of a cold crowd. But Tuesday and Wednesday made up for it, man. And this weekend again, DeChico's Old Town Clovis. Previous Sad Dad guest, very very funny comedian Katrina Davis is coming out. So if you have a chance, if you're not doing anything at the time of this recording, I guess that'd be January. Today's the 23rd. So this weekend coming up, yeah. So January 25th. What would that be? No, January 24th and 25th. DeChico's Old Town Clovis. Katrina Davis. So check that out. She's so good. Mentioned her just a second ago. My guest today, Becky Lynn, she came out with Scott Powers. It was my first time working with Becky, and I'd heard so many amazing things. And man, did she totally lived up to the hype, man. She's such a talented comic. She's so she's just so fun to like hang out with, and her and Scott were up here for a couple of days and just crashed into my place. We, went, hung out, got breakfast. They ended up going to the zoo. Fresno has a fucking baller ass zoo, man. It's wild. Our zoo is so good. It's crazy. Like 10 years ago, they passed this measure, like Measure Z is what they called it, and we like, it was like a sales tax. It was a small tax that like went to the zoo. And we sort of like forgot about it. Like collectively as Fresnans, we forgot that we passed Measure Z, right? And then years passed, probably 7-8 years passed. And then the zoo's like, we're done. And we're like, what? And they're like, we're done. All that money you gave us, we finished with it. And Fresno's like, what? And we go, and we all just showed up at the zoo at the same time. And we're like, this shit is tight. It looks like Jurassic Park, man. It's so cool. And Scott and Becky went and did that. So I got to have Scott on, Scott Powers. He's the best. And next time he's down, he comes out on a semi-regular basis. So I'll probably have him on Sad Dad pretty soon here. But without further ado, I got a great talk today with Becky Lynn. She's amazing. I think you guys are going to love her. And without further ado, I think I already said that twice. Did I say that twice? Anyway, here we go, guys. Becky Lynn. That was good.
I've been belching like that since I was born.
That's good. Yeah, grab a seat there. You want any water or anything?
No, I haven't.
You got a water. All right.
I never travel without it.
Yeah, you can pop on those headphones there. You're good. Hell yeah. You can extend them too if you. Yeah. There you go.
Okay. Yeah, I have this big ass bun, so we're gonna see how it goes.
Oh, you got it.
This is good.
Yeah,
all
looks
right.
good. All right, yeah, you can talk into that bad boy. Get a little closer to your face.
Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, sounds good.
We're doing it.
We're podcasting.
I got that belch on recording.
Oh, wait, what? It's recording right now?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It was easy right into it. We don't,
Nice. All right. I like that.
I feel like it puts too much pressure. It's like, we're going to start recording, like what?
Yeah, don't give me enough time to prepare.
Yeah, it's good.
That's good.
Yeah. Have you been to Fresno before? Like, have you ever performed in Fresno, Clovis before?
No, I was out in this area about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. I did a show in Bakersfield.
Yeah.
And that was interesting. I told Bakersfield that I liked being there because it was nice to find out where Stockton came from. They didn't like that joke at all. They were very upset.
That's so funny. Yeah, I do like I have a joke that depending on where I'm performing, I change it, but it's about a shithole city, and so when I'm in Fresno, it's Stockton, and when I'm in LA, it's Bakersfield, and so
because they're the same place.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it at least makes the same point, either way. So yeah, well, that's good. And so, but you grew up in the Central Valley, right?
So yeah, I grew up in Del Porto Canyon, which is like a mountain range above Patterson.
Ooh.
So I grew up like very rurally, like out in the country on a ranch.
Yeah. But that's like mountain rural.
Mountain.
Yeah,
mountain rural, like off the grid, like
mountain people party.
Word.
Dude. I've got friends. I don't know if you know where Oakhurst is, but like Oakhurst people fucking party, and it's like I gotta pump the brakes.
It's a different sort of experience. But I mean, I also, when I left there, I moved to Chico, which is it's just like a 24/7 shit show. That I wasn't ready for.
It's so funny too, because I pictured Chico being like very like suburban and very like upper class, but I feel like I'm wrong about that.
Well, here's the thing. So like, because Chico has the university, there's sort of like two different parts. Like there's North Chico, and that's like where a lot of professors live and a lot of just like the well-off residents. And like, that's where like the nice high school is. And that's where like the good McDonald's and Safeway are, McDonald's. But like, I lived in central Chico, I guess. So there's downtown Chico. And that's where the school is. That's where all the bars are. That's where like the culture and like art scene really thrives.
Yeah.
And then, so I lived there a little bit, but when I first moved there, I lived in the Avs, which is like, where every student that has a job lives, like where they're paying their own rent because it's the cheapest area to live. Right. It's also the closest to the train tracks. Right. So, and anybody that's ever lived anywhere near train tracks, what it's like there. It's weird.
Yeah, it's always,
or people usually buy their drugs there.
Yeah. Well, our Fresno City College has a train that goes right through the middle of the campus.
Oh, wow.
It's shocking how many people get hit by trains. Like,
I mean,
you wouldn't think
people are sad.
People are sad and people are dumb. And
it's like accidents. I'm all thinking that these students are suicidal.
Oh, no. I mean, maybe, but it's like, it was just like, it seems like avoiding a train would be the easiest thing in the world.
Yeah, but everybody's on their phone all the time.
Yeah.
So people are just like, oh, what's on Instagram? And
it's pretty fun.
And people have headphones in. People are dumb.
Yeah, they're the worst. But you're growing up in the hills. You're growing up.
I grew up in the hills. No conventional electricity. We had solar.
No shit.
So yeah, and like a septic system, and it was a trip. Like, I'm adopted. I'm a Black woman. My parents are white. So there's like a lot of like disconnect that happened a lot of the time.
Sure.
Where like I was the one that had to like determine like, do I want to be able to blow dry my hair or do I want to watch TV? Like just like a lot of like
there's some weird give and take.
Yeah. Like, so I learned a lot about like compromise and making good choices, which just means I looked like shit like all through high school. But no, it was a trip. And like we had animals. Like I grew up raising animals. My parents, my dad was a hunter and a fisher, and like so were my siblings. So like that was they did a lot of that, and then I had to like they would go in the back canyon and they would hunt and like bring back a buck, and then I would have to like help my dad skin it.
Oh, wow.
So it was just like a lot of like hands-on preparation for the apocalypse.
Yeah.
So I'll be a great asset.
That's intense. I mean, it's good though. I mean, it's
good skills.
Seems like a good skill to have. You know, and I don't know. My dad never hunted, but he, living on this farm, it was a while he would raise like pigs and chickens and stuff. And so he would just like take the pigs to the slaughterhouse and he would just like come back with like half a pig.
Yeah.
He was like lay it on the fucking counter. My mom would be like, oh my God, I'm leaving. Like, but it was just like that weird, it's hard to communicate to people that have never had that experience, like what that experience is like.
For sure. People don't get it.
Yeah.
They think that like farm life or ranch life, which is so similar, is just like, oh yeah, there's like green grass and the chickens are like running around and they're super happy and there's like one milk cow and mom goes out on the stool and like does the whole thing and you're like, no dude, this shit's gross.
It really
it's gross
is.
All the time.
It smells and I've seen like chickens up on the fence for the pig pen and like they'll slip and they'll fall and the pig will fucking eat that chicken.
Yeah, it's wild. We used to have like this issue. We had goats. So we had goats and chickens. After I moved out, like my dad got very into raising hogs. So that was like something that they had that I never had to deal with. Thank God.
Yeah, good for you.
But because it's like in a rural area, like we had a lot of issues with mountain lions. So like mountain lions would come in at night and they would like go after our chickens. Yeah. Or like if we had baby goats, they would go after the goats. So it was like this whole thing. My brother moved back home. He like had to file a request with the Department of Fish and Game to get a special permit to hunt a mountain lion,
shit.
which like to anybody listening that like knows what it's like to like be a hunter, that's a really big fucking deal.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah,
because you cannot do that. It's so fucking illegal. And he was so fucking juiced to just like get up every morning and go in the back canyon and hunt for a fucking mountain lion.
Yeah.
He killed this mountain lion, and I swear to God, he still talks about
Does
it. And
he
it was like
really?
7 years ago. It's so annoying. I'm surprised he doesn't wear the fucking head as a hat.
I was gonna
Like,
say, did he get a taxi?
no,
driver?
he has a pelt somewhere, and I don't
sure.
know. I didn't ask. I didn't care.
I mean, yeah, that's real.
But for
I mean,
him, it was like, you know, I gave him a high five.
yeah, well, way to go. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool
what kind of growing up? Like, what kind of kid are you? Are you like a good student? Are you, what do you?
No,
what do you do?
I've been pretty consistently average at everything. When I was in high school, I was an FFA in high school, so I showed rabbits like a weird kid.
Sure. Okay.
Because I didn't really like the commitment of raising like a full grown animal.
Sure.
I raised I raised a sheep. I wanted to raise a steer. I didn't do it. So I did raise a lamb, and I was going to show a sheep, and then I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this at all. It's fucking weird. It smells. I don't want to shear it. I don't want to do any of this.
Yeah.
And so they just like sent it to slaughter. And then we had a shit ton of lamb in the freezer. But yeah, that was what I did. It was a lot of summers and fair. I was on the dairy products judging team. That was like my sport.
There you go.
So now I'm also lactose intolerant, so it was reckless.
Geez,
I
yeah.
like to live dangerously. So I spent a lot of my weekends just like tasting milk products at various schools.
Sure.
We had finals were at Fresno State, so we came to Fresno State every year.
Yeah.
To do that, and it was, I don't know, I was a fucking nerd.
Sure.
I was a weird, insecure kid, and I graduated at 17, so I was like, didn't have any freedom from my parents because I wasn't like grown yet.
Yeah.
And then when I moved out, I was like ready. Like I
Sure.
moved when I was 20. I moved to Chico, and I was just ready to like live it up.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
my parents were a lot older, so like they were very strict. They'd already had 4 kids
Sure.
and like dealt with like all of their bullshit. That's why, because they lived in Fremont, so like they lived in the city. Like all my siblings were awful, like just like partiers, crazy, on drugs, like did everything there was to do, and then had kids. Still too young.
Sure.
And so like I tried to be like this good kid that like, you know, I never did drugs, I never drank, I never I always pulled like decent grades, like C average, C plus
Sure.
average sometimes. But yeah, then when I was like ready to go, I was ready to fucking go.
Yeah.
And I went balls to the walls crazy.
I mean, I feel that to a certain extent because I'm the middle kid. And my older brother had so many problems, and my younger brother had so many problems, and I always felt this pressure to be like super normal, like
Yeah.
be really normal, because you saw like what your brothers did to your mom, bro. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and it's like you don't want to do that, like, you know, and so like. But almost to a fault, like I just didn't talk about any problems I had. Like,
Oh,
you
yeah,
know,
me either.
I just held everything in, and in hindsight, it's like, man, if I just told my parents I was getting bullied so badly at school, my life would have been so much better. You
I don't know, man. I told my parents, I had a mental breakdown when I was like 15, and like it was bad, like just like tons of panic attacks. Like I was freaking the fuck out. I had to go stay with my sister because like my parents couldn't deal with me.
Whoa.
And so I was with my sister for like a week, and she was like, what do you need? Like, what is it that you need? And I was like, a therapist. I need therapy.
Yeah.
I need to like see a therapist. I need to talk about my issues. I need to be on medication. Like
Sure.
these are the things that I need. And they were like not on board.
Really?
They were just like, oh, you want to go tell a stranger about your problems? Yes, that's exactly what I want to
yeah,
do.
that's
And like when
awesome.
you're 15 and you're like, I have mental health issues and this is specifically the help I need, they're just like from such a different generation.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
I was gonna say it's either generational or like religious, but
No, it was mostly generational. And then just like, I think it was pride.
Oh,
like,
sure.
I don't think that they wanted to like believe that like that they had a kid that like wasn't functioning properly or like
Sure.
a normal person.
Right.
Which like they should have known because all their other kids were fucked up too. But yeah, it was just so odd. So then like I was like, whatever, like I guess that's not happening. And then I did get on medication, and I stopped taking it probably because it was working. Like I was on it.
Yeah,
And then I was
yeah.
like, I don't need this. I'm fine. And I was like, oh, that was the medication. That's why.
Yeah. So did you originally move to Chico to go to school? Was that
I moved there. I moved to go to school. I had gone to Modesto Junior College for a while, and then I got kicked out. So then I went to academic probation, and then I went to Las Positas in Livermore, and I was there for like a semester and a half, and then I got kicked out there too.
Wow.
So I was like, well, fuck it. I know that I want to go to Chico State, so let me just like move out there. I'll go to Butte College. I'll work, and then I'll just transfer to Chico State. I never made it to Chico State.
Oh, no.
I got my last semester at Butte College. I dropped out because my mom died, and then I was just like, you know what? I don't think I need to go back. And I had just started stand up like that year.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, yeah, we're just gonna see where this takes me.
Sure.
I think that's fine.
And that was actually my next question is like, how did the stand up come about? Like, were you a comedy nerd growing up? Were you watching?
Not really. I did watch a decent amount of comedy. My parents weren't super into comedy, so like, and they were like pretty country, so we watched a lot of like Jeff Foxworthy,
right,
and Blue Collar Comedy Tour, which in hindsight, like I initially, like I just like immediately like fell in love with Ron White. I was just like very on board with what he was doing.
Oh yeah, man.
It hasn't changed much.
He was like, very different from that blue collar. I don't really know why he was there. Like,
yeah,
you know,
it was such a treat.
Yeah.
It was like he phoned in a favor. Like,
yeah, it's like you got fucking
sense.
Jeff Foxworthy and his cute, like, you know, you're a redneck, and you got Jeff Dunham who's doing his puppet thing. And
Bill Engvall with the "Here's Your Sign" guy.
Yeah, and then Larry the Cable Guy. And then here comes fucking Ron White. And you're like, what the fuck is this?
He's like, I like scotch. and I was like, yeah, I like that. How do I do that?
Yeah, I don't know why he's here, but I'm so glad. Like.
So I love that. I remember my parents took me to see Sinbad.
Oh yeah,
that was the first comic I ever saw.
Sinbad is a fucking crusher.
Oh like, my god,
he is wildly underrated as a comedian.
And it was wild because I think when they took me, I was like 10. So like I didn't know what was going on. I didn't really get like a context of a lot of what he was talking about.
Yeah.
But I like specifically remember it just being like, whoa, everybody loves this guy.
Yeah.
And like I remember being so fixated on like his stage presence and just like, and we had really good seats so I could like see him.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is very cool, like what's happening.
Yeah, right.
And then as I got older, I sort of like explored stand up a little bit more. Watched a lot of like Ellen DeGeneres specials and like old one night stands on HBO. They always played super late.
Yeah.
And then I think it was like sophomore, junior year of high school was when like Dane Cook really took off.
Yeah.
And do you remember that? Like everybody,
yeah,
like Dane Cook was like,
everybody had the fucking,
the shocker.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just was quoting like that car alarm joke. Just like I heard it in algebra like every single day somebody was telling this joke.
And I remember too, like that was the first time I had ever seen like a comedian like with a patch on a backpack. Like I saw a kid with the shocker patch on it. I'm like, what is that? And they're like, oh, it's this funny comedian. Yeah. And I'm like, it's like band patches and everything else. And then there's this comedian thing. I'm like, what the fuck? Like,
and it was so wild because he just like took off and like everybody was like super on board with like, you know, listening to his albums. That was also when I feel like LimeWire was very popular because that's where I got everything. I burned through so many laptops just like getting viruses illegally, torrenting fucking stand-up comedy specials. Yeah. But I was very into him. I remember it was after his first special, I started like going back to see what he had done. Sure. And his Comedy Central first hour, or his Comedy Central half hour was like still to this day one of my favorite half hours because it was so fucking strange. Like he just did this Alien versus Predator fucking act out that was so odd. And like he never really did anything like that again, which was so disappointing for me because I was just like, dude, this is the shit that I like. Just like this weird experimental nonsense.
How funny.
But yeah, so I think that sort of like started my interest. And then once I moved to Chico, I was like doing the whole school thing and like hoeing and just like drinking and having a good fucking time. Yeah. And then after a few years of that, I was like, I don't know, man, I'm not really like doing anything. And so when I was working at Wingstop, one of my employees there, he ran a comedy open mic. So he would always have to like leave work early to like go host this mic. And then he invited us a few times. So then I started going. It was every Monday. So I would like go and I would like sit in the corner. It was like my Monday ritual. I'd drink like a pitcher of Torpedo and just watch this comedy, you know? And then I did it for like probably like 2 or 3 months. I just went and watched. And then after a while I was like, I can do that. Because once 100%. I started to learn that like when I first went, I was like, this is live comedy. This is great. This is so cool. Right. And then like 3 months in, I was like, this isn't that good. Like this isn't as good as I thought it was when I first started. So then I was like, I think I can do this. Like I think that I can give it a try. Yeah. So the first time I went up, I like instantly fell in love with it. It did not go well, but it didn't go bad.
Yeah.
And then
well
I was
enough.
hooked.
Yeah. Good for you. What's What's doing comedy in Chico like? What's the scene like?
It's changed a lot. When I started, it was a very small scene. We were very tight knit.
Yeah.
Less than 15 comics and 2 open mics. Actually, when I started, there was only 1 open mic. It alternated between 2 bars.
Oh, wow.
So like every other Monday, it was at a different place.
Oh, I see.
And
But so then really it was only 1 a week.
It was 1 mic a week.
Yeah. It's
and then after I think like my second year or maybe my first year, they started another mic a few months in, like maybe like when I was like 6 months in, probably. They started a second mic and then that was it. And just now in the last year or 2, they have mics almost every night of the week.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. But we were so close.
Yeah.
And I got really lucky that, they sort of like brought me in and like really helped me. So I always had writing partners. I always had people like, you know, sort of helping me like develop my stage presence and like how to be just more like confident and how to like write joke, like trim the fat on jokes and things like that.
Yeah.
And I'm super grateful for that.
One of the weirdest things, 'cause I can relate to you on coming from a small scene, was like, you know, when I started comedy, there was like, again, like there wasn't, Fresno had, I think, 1 open mic at the time. And there weren't very many comedians. And it was like the comedians that there were either like super cliquish or they were basically like at the point where they were from Fresno, but they weren't necessarily part of the Fresno scene. Like they were off doing clubs and they were on the road and everything else. And so, you know, and I keep starting these mics, you know, and there's a weird point, and this had to have happened to you, where like suddenly like there's a split in like the classes, like you know, like my class is you know, it's like Tanya, Dana, I'm trying to think of who else is kind of like in the same, you know, like Heath Reedy and a few others, and then now there's like a younger and I'm like when did this happen, like, you know, and like they all look at me like I'm the old guy now, and I'm like, no, it wasn't like, you know, it wasn't like this, like yeah, and I don't know if did you have that moment too?
Kind of. I mean, what happened with me is like I started and then there weren't a lot of like, my really good friend and I started around the same time. So like we were probably like, we were 2 people of like 1 class, right? So we like the like more veteran comics just like took us on.
Sure.
And then I moved before the new class started. So I moved to Sacramento when I was like almost 2 years in, and then kind of like got more familiar with that scene.
Yeah.
And now because I still run a room in Chico. So when I go back, I see that there is this like new class of comics and I can't stand them. Mostly just because, and I think that like you'll agree, is like after comedy became even more mainstream in the last like 5 years.
Sure.
So everybody is like, yeah, I want to do this. Like, you know, especially with the rise of like Instagram and like these videos, and people are just like, yeah, like this is what I want to do.
Right.
So like twice a year, people come out and do stand up, and it's always at the beginning of the year, like New Year's resolution.
Right.
And then right when the spring semester ends, people are like, oh, it's summertime. Like I can finally like go do this.
Sure.
So there's this huge influx of people that think they want to do it.
Yeah.
And then they kind of like clog up everything that's happening.
It's like, and this is like really shitty to say, but when it's I mean, I'm always happy for anybody trying stand up. Like, you know, good for you. Like you'll figure out pretty quick whether it's for you or not. But it's like when it's just like another like straight white dude, I'm like, oh, we already have so many of you. Like I need like there last night there was a gal, a little Mexican girl. I don't know if you saw her.
I don't know if I
Genesis.
did.
She went up and I'm like, yes, like please. And then the night before that, we actually had a new woman try stand up, and I'm like, please keep at it. Like,
it's hard. Like, I think as female comics, I know that I go out of my way whenever I see like a new lady comic, and I'm like, please keep doing it. I tell them, I'm like, it's gonna suck. But like, also don't stop.
It's so funny too. Like, I remember I had a similar conversation with Tanya, where I was like, hey Tanya, like, what do I have to do? Like, you know, so we get more women out to the open mics. And she's like, honestly, I don't think it's you. She's like, I think it has to be like me and like the other female comedians. Like, we have to be the ones like encouraging women, letting them know it's safe, letting them know it's supportive. And I'm like, oh.
Well, I've also seen like some scenes do, and it happens at a couple mics in Sacramento where like women get priority at mics. So that's always something that can be like good incentive.
Sure.
Is like, oh, like, you know, if you need to go up in the first half of the show, or like if you show up and you're a woman, like we'll get you in.
Yeah.
And male comics always get really upset about that.
Of course, yeah.
But like it also is going to help like ensure more representation and diversity in your scene.
Sure.
And like even like I'll go back to saying like I hate when there's new comics. It's not just that. Like, it's that I hate the mentality that comes with like comics that are like, yeah, I'm gonna do this, and this, and I have it all figured out. And I listen to Joe Rogan, so I know a lot about stand-up.
Yeah, right.
And I'm just like, okay, like we can't.
Yeah, all right.
Like, that's fine. Like, just don't talk to me.
Yeah. You just go up there with this edgelord thing.
Yeah.
There was a guy. There's a comic. I love him. He's a good buddy. He's newer, and he did this set. He went up and he was like, any Bernie Sanders supporters in the room? And people clapping cheer. It's like, how does it feel to be a dumbass? I don't remember what it was. And like he like put him down, and then he's like, I'm a libertarian. And I'm like, boo! And then but
I like money and I'm conveniently racist. That's all I ever hear when people say that.
And I don't know. It's kind of shitty, like boo another comedian, but he's a buddy, and so I was just being playful with him. But he thought it was like a genuine boo. Like he thought I was mad at him. Like he came up to me. He's like, he thought we were not cool, and I'm like,
no,
dude, I don't care. Like I don't care. I was like, you can say whatever the fuck you want on the mic. I don't care. I don't have to listen.
Right.
Like I don't have to listen to it, but you can have free reign to say whatever you want, you know. But yeah, I don't know. It's just. You know, that perspective, that like straight white dude perspective is just...
it's just like frustrating. And then they always, like for me, I just get a lot of feedback from like straight white male comics. They're like, you know, like, oh, well, you should be doing this or you need to do this. And I'm like, that's
I got a tag for you.
Right. All the time.
Like,
and that's even like straight white male audience members are really good about being like, I know you did this joke, but I have like an idea. And I always am just like so nice. And I'm like, wow, thank you so much. I really appreciate that feedback. Like, here's my card. Follow me on Instagram. Just trying to make sure that I get something out of it.
It's only ever happened to me one time. One time, an audience member came up. And,
really?
And she was like, hey, you have this joke, and what if you said this? And I'm like, fuck you. That's hilarious. It's hilarious. Oh, nice. Yeah. It was actually the girlfriend of a comic, and I was like,
oh, well, that's different.
Yeah, I was like, that's really fucking good. I hate you. You just. It wasn't a tag. I'm like, that's the new punchline. It was so good. So. Anyway.
I mean, sometimes, and I do like feedback on occasion.
Yeah.
I like to solicit it.
Yes.
So like if I'm going out, like, and I'll ask somebody ahead of time. I'm like, hey, I'm working on this joke. Can you watch my set? Because I have a question about this specific part. Right. And then like I'll go up after and be like, did you catch it? What did you think of this part? Should I reword it or whatever?
Yeah.
But like when it's unsolicited, I just like I zone out. It's like when somebody starts giving you directions, even though you know you have Google Maps. I'm just like, I don't. Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, that's great. I'll see you there.
Yeah. It's my fucking aunt. I was going down to San Diego to do some shows down there, and I was gonna crash with my aunt, and my aunt's like 80. She's like 82 or something, and she was like. Oh, do your parents still have their fax machine? I'll fax you the
Stop
directions.
it, like the map quest.
I was like, Auntie, no, it's like, I'll just plug it into my, she's like, no, but there's some shortcuts. And I'm like,
you can't explain to an
82-year-old
woman.
All right, here's the fax number.
You're using a fucking satellite.
Yeah, right. I'm like, I just was like, here's a fax number, fax it through. And I just threw it in the garbage. And I don't need these dumb directions. You're Becky Lynn.
Yeah, that's me. I'm
and
Becky Lynn.
This is a podcast called Sad Dad.
Yeah.
We talk about dads.
Cool.
And you have a dad.
I have a dad. I do. He's dead.
Well, sure.
But he wasn't. He was definitely like all the way alive before that.
That's great. I don't know why last night I wanted to call you. I mean, I didn't fuck it up, thankfully, like I did poor BJ's name. But for whatever reason, I was like, Becky Lynn. Because I kept turning into like Betsy and Betty. And I'm like,
oh, yeah, it happens all the time.
And I'm like, why is this happening right now?
I've been introduced as Becky Lynch.
Oh, geez.
At least 5 times. And like every time I'm just like, I'm not white. I'm not a wrestler. This is fucking weird. Like, it's like... I don't know. My name's on the flyer.
Yeah. It was your first name. I was just cycling through and I'm like, don't fuck this up, man. Like,
you know what's so funny is I was watching you. I was like, he didn't even confirm with me what my name is. So I was like, let's see how this plays out. Because I was already coming up so hot too. Because
fucking Danny's set. That weird racist set.
Oh man.
Yeah. And
then those like weird table of hecklers. So they came up afterwards and like all 3 of them, they came up to Scott and I. They were just like, you really, and they pointed at me. They're like, you really shut us up. And I was like, I know. Yeah.
That was so good.
That was the whole thing.
It was so good. It was perfect. You handled that so well.
It was fun. It was a really good time. They were scared. That was my favorite part. Is just the moment that I was like, my name is Becky, but I don't fucking act like one. Right, like they were all like, okay.
They're saying all this like racist shit with no idea that a black woman is the next comic on stage. Like, oh no.
And what did I say? I think when I opened, I was like, are we all done with the playful racism? Is that over now? It's so fucking odd.
That shit stops now. It was great. Oh man. But so I don't know. We were talking about this a little earlier. It's like it's a big thing. Like, you know, doing what your dad.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Where'd your dad grow up?
So my dad kind of like, he grew up all over. For a majority of his youth, he was in Chowchilla.
Oh wow.
And he lived on like a cattle ranch in Texas, and then came out to Chowchilla, and then would go.
Chowchilla, California. It's a dusty little Central Valley, California town.
Yeah, it is, and it's still, my uncle still lives there.
No shit.
It is. So my grandma, my dad's mom, was weird. Like, she was wild. She was a fucking trip. She just died not that long ago.
Oh, wow.
She was racist. It's fine. I don't. He called me and he was like, your grandma died. And I was like, bummer, how are you?
Because
it didn't bother me.
I'm sorry for your loss.
Yeah, I was like, I'm sorry about your mom, Dad. Like, that sucks. But she was always like weird to me. But no, she got married a lot. And so
she got married a lot.
She got married a lot. So like she met
the funniest way to phrase that.
She met my dad's dad, and they got married, I guess, in Texas. And then she moved out here. She married my mom's dad. Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah. They got married like right after my parents got married.
Their parents
weird. Got married.
Holy shit.
Also, all of her husbands die. So then she married this other dude. I can't remember his name. I think it was like Cecil or something. And he was like my step grandpa. He was like the only nice grandpa I ever remember having. He was the only grandpa I ever remember having, actually. But he died too. Like, they all just died. Like, they were all dying. Like, she was a kiss of death. And just like a really shitty mom. She had like 5 kids, and they were like, my parents raised my dad's little sister like themselves, because like she couldn't do it. Like, it was just super weird. But yeah, he lived in Chowchilla half the time. He lived in Texas half the time. But when he was working out here, like as a teen, he like worked on a dairy for a while. Yeah. He worked building batteries in Hayward. Oh, wow. That was like a thing. He always did like manual labor. That actually gave him COPD because he was inhaling like all
fucking battery acid.
Yeah, all
awful stuff.
Terrible stuff.
Yeah.
And then he worked as like a maintenance supervisor for Sims Metal Management in San Jose for years and years and years. They were Markovitz and Fox, and then they changed ownership, and he worked there.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was
growing up on the on the ranches and stuff. Was he like a cowboy? Was he like wrangling?
Yeah, he was. He was very. That's what he wanted. So like when I was super young, we lived in Fremont. He never wanted to live in the city. Yeah. It was like not for him. Like, he wanted to have land. He wanted to live in the country. So, and I think that's the only reason that I like didn't fully despise it, was I knew it was like my dad's dream to like have land. And so he got that, which was very cool. And he like loved like I really like was a lot more of a son in a lot of ways than I was a daughter. Just because he was like so excited to just have this kid to like do stuff with, and like drive tractors and teach me how to drive stick, which was a terrible idea because I took out a fence post the one time I did it. And then he woke me up at 5 a.m. the next morning to go
fix the fence post. Yeah. Fuck. Jesus. Yeah.
I told that story at his funeral. It was fucking brutal. Oh yeah. I cried so much he didn't make me finish. Which was a lot of the dynamic of our relationship because I was the baby, and I have an older sister from my mom's first marriage. Like, we're all full siblings. Like, we all love each other. But when my mom was married before she met my dad, and she had 3 kids, and then she met my dad, they had my brother, like my dad's namesake, which is Bill Jr. And then they adopted me. Yeah. So like, I was like the apple of my dad's eye, like just like this like charming ass baby that would get whatever I wanted, you know? Yeah. So it was very cool. Like he was very gruff and very just like no bullshit, like didn't talk a lot kind of guy. And then I think that like I softened him a lot, which was very funny.
And I mean, you have a great bit you do about it on stage. But he was much older, right? He was kind of an older dad.
Yeah.
So I mean, like 2 things on that. So what era is he growing up in? I mean, when he's a kid, so he was
So he was born in the 40s.
Oh, yeah.
Like early 40s.
Uh-huh.
And or like early to mid 40s, I think, something like that.
Sure.
So like he was a teen. That would put him a teen in the 60s, I think.
Wow. Yeah. So yeah, probably
Yeah.
like in his 20s, in the 60s. Yeah, it's a good time to be in your fucking
Good time.
20s.
I'm sure he had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Honestly, my favorite thing. So we were just cleaning out my parents' bedroom because we're like trying to sell this house. And so we're going through like all these photos, and my dad had the most impeccable fucking style. And I get so mad because I'm just like, where are all these clothes? Like, I want all of these clothes. Just these like very cool colored vests. And like, he only ever wore aviator sunglasses. And like really cool. Like, I'm looking at all these photos, just like, these are like great like vintage trucker hats. And like corduroy bell bottoms and like rust. And it makes me so mad. He always had like these huge chops. So like his hair was terrible.
He's just a fuck it.
But he just looked like a real, like, just like badass dude. And I'm so just like on board with it. I was like, oh, he was a cool guy.
Oh, that's
like,
right.
He was a very cool guy.
I mean, because he's in Northern California at a pretty like crazy time. Was he part of like, was he a hippie? Was he part of that movement? Was he going out to San Francisco?
He was very like, he was country. He was sort of like, he lived in San Francisco for a little while, and it was very much like just like cowboy moves to the city. Like just like didn't get it. I mean, I know he like never admitted to it, but I know he was a stoner because I heard too many stories about it from my uncles for him not to be.
Funny. Yeah.
So like, I think that was like the most he dabbled in, like the free love movement was like he would get high with my uncle, and then they'd probably like just listen to music.
And do you have any sense of what he was like as a kid? Was he real rambunctious, or was he?
I think that he was pretty shy.
Oh, really?
I think that like from what I've gathered, like he really loved my grandpa. So he always wanted to just like do shit with my grandpa. And I guess my brother told me this story that he heard from my grandma that like one day my grandma made like socks for like she like made them herself, socks for all these kids, right? And so he like was wearing these socks. They only got like 2 pairs a year. Fucking, I don't get it. And well, they were poor. I get it. It's just like sad. And so my dad would like leave for work, or my grandpa would leave for work, and my dad would like try to like run after him, but he wouldn't put shoes on. He would just like run in these socks. So like, and he would do it all the time. He'd like run in these socks, and then like I guess like one day like the gravel or the road had just gotten repaved, so he ran through like wet asphalt and destroyed his fucking socks. And apparently like my grandma like beat the shit out of him, and then like the next day just like let him go to work with him. So my dad like didn't get much of an education. I think he dropped out of school in like 6th grade.
And then he's just a working man. From
just like he
12.
always wanted to work.
Holy shit! Oh, that's wild. And and then at what point does he meet your mom? Like where
he met my mom? Oh man, I think he was in his early or mid 20s, and my mom already had 3 kids, and she was like 27. Oh wow! So she had 3 kids. She was a single mom. Her ex-husband was a scumbag. Not even a scumbag. He was just like an artist. He like was really into like promo. Like he did a lot of band booking, a lot of traveling. Like that was his thing. And so he just like wasn't ready for the life of like a parent. And so he was like really, he was just like really awful. So my parents got together. They started dating. They got married after 3 months.
Wow.
Yeah. Just fucking did it. And then my dad was just like dad. Like he raised all those kids. They all, they all loved him. He's the only dad that they know.
Really?
And and I think that that's like very cool. Like it's very commendable of him to just be like, yeah, this is what we're doing now. Just,
do you have any idea what year that would have been? Like what?
I don't. If I were to guess, I would say, probably like 1970.
Wow. Yeah.
I think.
Wow.
I think, yeah.
That's bananas.
Because then because my brother is 18 years older than me. And I was born in 89.
Oh, wow.
So, maybe like 1977, I would say.
Yeah. But it's just fucking just walks into the situation and just takes control.
It was just like, all right, let's fucking do it. Yeah. Which is like very much, that's him. Like he always was just kind of like, okay, this is what we're doing. I guess this is what we're doing. Yeah. And just like on board with it.
Did you ever get any, did he ever talk? Because that's such maybe it's a different time, but for him to like meet your mom and she has these 3 kids and he's just like totally down. Like, I mean,
yeah, I think he was just ready. And I also, like, if I were to assume, I think because like he knew what it was like growing up with my grandma and just being one of so many kids and just like not having a dad, really, like not getting to see his dad that much. So I think for him, he was just like, well, I love this woman. These kids are great. Yeah. Like, yeah, let's just do it. I want to make sure that they have somebody. I want to be with this person. Like, this all makes sense.
Yeah.
Which is just like very cool. I'm just like,
that's amazing.
When I think about it, like, yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
But I will say, he hated my mom's ex-husband. Ooh. And I just recently found this out. Well, not recently. He died in 2018. And I remember I called him because my sister still stayed in touch with her biological dad. And my sister is the oldest of all of us. Mm-hmm. So one time she called me. She was like, hey, I'm going to be getting dinner with Paul in Sacramento, and my cousin's gonna be there. She wants to see you because I was close with a couple of his relatives that my mom stayed close to after they got divorced. And so I went, and it was weird. Like, it's very weird to like sit down with your mom's ex-husband when your mom's been dead for 3 years. Yeah,
it is bizarre. Yeah.
And so we're just like sitting, like talking, and he was like asking me about shows and stuff. He wanted to come out. Oh. And so it was cool. Like, it was fine. Like, we were all very friendly. And then I left because I had a show to get to, but I called my dad and I was like, hey, so weird. I just went and had dinner with mom's ex-husband, and he's a trip. And my dad fucking unloaded. Really? Was just like that piece of shit, and like telling me all of these stories, right? Of just like, like he was supposed to take these kids to Disneyland. He like let them sit on the curb for 4 hours. They wouldn't come inside because they were sure their dad was going to come.
Oh God.
And just like telling me all of these stories. And it wasn't until like a week later that I realized, like, holy shit, like my dad has resented this man for, 55 plus years and couldn't tell anybody. Yeah. Because he couldn't tell my mom without making my mom feel like an idiot for like being and then with this asshole.
His kid's
dead.
He
couldn't tell he couldn't tell any of them because that's still their dad.
You're the
so
only
I was
neutral.
the only one. So I'm just sitting there like in this parking lot, like I have to go to this show, and he's just like getting all of this pent up anger for 5 fucking decades just out of his system. And I was just like, okay. No, that is really shitty. And just like walking him through it because he needed to get it out. Right. But it was just like such a trip to like hear that happening and just being like, wow, that guy was really shitty. Fuck this guy. I hope he never comes to a show.
Yeah.
I hate him. And funny, because even like when my mom died, like Paul came to the funeral and nobody wanted him to come. Like none of my siblings wanted him to come. And my dad was like the bigger man and was just like, you know what? Like that was his ex-wife. Like he has the right to come and like pay his respect. Sure. So even then in those moments, like he was so composed, but just like to have this conversation where he's like, absolutely not. Like fuck that guy. I can't wait for him to die. He didn't say that, but he meant it in this way. And so it was so funny though, because when we went to go spread my dad's ashes, like everybody said some words, and my brother Dwayne was just like, you know what I love the most about dad was that he never said anything about taking over like Paul's fatherly duties. Like he just did it so gracefully, and he never had a bad thing to say about that man. And I'm just like holding it in, just like, oh, okay, yeah, no, totally, never had anything bad to say about your shitbag father. Definitely not.
That's amazing.
So it was like a cool last secret to have.
And did your folks ever have biological children together? Or
so like they had one. My parents had my brother Bill, and that was the only kid that they had together. And my mom had her 3 kids, and then they adopted me 18 years later. Yeah. So like, and it's so funny because like nobody would admit it, but my brother Billy, who is my closest sibling, we're by far the closest out of everybody.
Still 18 years apart.
Still 18 years apart. Yeah. He was my mom's favorite.
Oh, funny.
But he was the baby. And so like it just kind of made sense. But he was my mom's favorite, and I was my dad's favorite by a long shot. And we talk about it all the time when nobody else is around. We also like make it clear that we're each other's favorites, which is so funny and so shitty to the rest of our siblings. But everybody knows, like they all know that like we're the closest because we're the babies, and we never had to compete with each other because we had different favorite parents.
Right. And you're so far apart that they could be your parents.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
It's like we're on different levels here.
Completely different like functioning relationships. And that's what was such a trip too, is that like when they died, everybody was blindsided except me. Like they were all just like, we didn't see it coming, and like we're all in shock. And I was like, bro, they were in their 70s.
Yeah.
Like they were sick. Like dad worked in a fucking battery factory.
Yeah.
Like mom smoked 2 packs a day. Like they weren't going to live to 100. They just weren't those kind of people.
Right.
So like, that's the thing that like blew my mind. And then I had to remember that like I grew up with old parents. So like in my mind, I was always consciously aware of like, yeah, this shit doesn't last forever.
Right.
You know, like I accepted like very early that like, they're probably not going to be there for my wedding. They're probably not going to be there when I have kids. Like these are realities that I had to like just come to terms with very quickly.
Right, because in their mind, their parents, they're probably picturing the young, virile, 20-something, 30-something
and just
parents.
like they had them for everything, right? Like they had them for their first, second, third, fourth marriages and like all their kids and like all, you know, buying their first home and like dad was there like making, you know, doing repairs and stuff. So like in my mind, I'm also just like, you stingy motherfuckers. Like, what do you mean? Like, oh, it came out of nowhere. Like you had a whole ass life with them.
Yeah, right.
So it's such a trip, like how that works. Like when you do have like much older parents like that, you just come to terms with things like very differently.
And did they ever talk about like their decision to like have another kid at 50? I mean, like what
they became, well, my mom, I think what it is my mom had empty nest syndrome once like my brother moved out. So they were like, we want to be foster parents. And that way they'd always just have kids in and out of the house. So what they did is they became foster parents and they went through the extra certification to become foster parents for at-risk infants. So like drug addicted babies or like babies to teen moms that are addicts, things like that. Like we had foster kids that like, we had a 15-year-old foster child with a 1-year-old daughter.
Oh my God.
So like we saw a lot. But that's what they wanted to do was just they had this home with a lot of space because they had so many kids, they're out of the house. So they're like, well, we'll just foster. And I was their first foster child. I was born during Loma Prieta earthquake in Oakland in 89. And to a drug addicted mom who had already planned to put me up for adoption, but there were nobody was ready to adopt me yet. I was born early because of the earthquake. So I was placed in emergency foster care and I was at risk. I was born like, I'm going to say I was born addicted to like some type of upper because like I love uppers. Like I love cocaine, Adderall, coffee, like anything. And so like, I knew I was like born addicted to something, but I can only assume it was like crack cocaine because I would love some right now. I'm just kidding.
It just so happens I've got a gift bag, a sad dad gift bag for you.
I love a sad dad gift bag with crack cocaine in it. What a fucking dream. But so I think that's what it was. But yeah, I was an at-risk infant and then I was placed with them and then they immediately were like, yeah, let's fucking keep her. And
that's
I was
so
like,
funny.
I don't think they understand how fostering works.
I was going to say like, they're like, oh no, this is going to get really expensive.
But yeah, I was the only, I had, I guess, a biological sister that was a foster child across the street. And my mom had tried to adopt both of us together, but she got adopted by somebody in Stockton. So it didn't work out.
Yeah. I mean, do you have any kind of relationship with that sibling? No,
it was a closed adoption and they were like lock and key, like absolutely not. So I was like, whatever.
I mean, you've got enough siblings.
Yeah, I have plenty.
Yeah.
But I'd love to find out if I have ones that are like not awful.
That's great. The only other thing I was going to ask you about, and you kind of touched on it already, but I mean, your relationship with your dad, obviously, you were his favorite. Yeah, I mean, what was he like, though, like, as a parent? I mean, was he, like, a real strict disciplinarian, or would he let you get away with murder, or was he there helping you with homework? Like, what was he?
So he didn't help me. He was good at math, and that was it. He had severe learning disabilities. He was, like, really dyslexic. So, like, so much so that when... once people were like getting really strict about doing like harassment trainings and like safety and OSHA trainings, like online training classes, I had to do all of those for my dad when he would like, high school. It was like, I think it started like in middle school and high school. Like I would log in and like do all of his trainings for him because he couldn't do it. But he would help me with math. He was very good with that. But a majority of like our dynamic was him being like the barrier between my mom and I. So like my mom and I had like a very, very rough relationship always. Yeah. And I think that there's a lot of layers to like what that looked like. But I think a lot of it was just that she resented like how close I was with my dad. Yeah. And because like I don't think she had a good relationship with her dad. So there was like a lot of like layers and issues there. So we were at odds a lot. So he like always cushioned it. Yeah. So like it was a lot of like he would either like step in for me or he would like let my mom treat me like shit and then like pick up the pieces later. Right. So like she kicked me out one time And I think I was like 18 or 19, but she kicked me out. And so I was staying at my cousin's boyfriend's parents' house in San Ramon, commuting to my job an hour and a half away. Jeez. And so I would go visit my dad at work like every other week, and he would give me money and just be like, don't tell your mom. And that was like our thing. Like he would always like do something to like cushion the blow of my mom being awful. Yeah. And then like he'd just be like, don't tell your mom.
You really were his favorite.
I was really his favorite. Yeah. Like he gave me so much money. Even like as an adult, like I would, within the last few years, I would go home. My dad always had like this like Texas flag boot, like a piggy bank. And he had it on his dresser. And like that was, 27 years old was like still my fucking allowance. Like I would go home and I would like, he'd be like, don't forget to empty the boot. And I would, and he would shove like $100 bills in there. Wow. So I would like take like a Ziploc bag and I'd be like shaking all of this money out of the boot. And then I'd shake it and I'd hear bills in there and I'd just be pulling it out. And I'd be like, oh cool, dad gave me $250. That's great. But it was always, even then I feel like if I went up to him, he would still be like, don't tell your mom. I never did.
Yeah, don't bring that up. Yeah.
But oh, Dad, I don't think she's gonna know about this.
There's something about like, because I have a daughter, and there's something about like helping your kid out like that. It's not so much that you're even trying to spoil them; it's that you just want them to be okay. Yeah, you know what I mean. And and I think, and I'm sure that's where he was coming from. He's like maybe I should talk to her about making better decisions with her money, or I could just make sure she's okay. Like, I just want her to be okay, And
he did. Like, there were so many times when I started stand-up, my mom was still alive when I started, and I told her that I did it, and she, like, didn't get it. But my dad, which I think that this is, like, a thing with dads in general, is, like, I feel like dads are more inclined to just be like, yeah, like, do the thing that you want to do. Yeah, right. Because I think so many dads didn't get to. Yeah. Like, dads are always the ones that have to, like, they're the providers, and they have to, like, do, stuff they don't always want to do to make sure that, like, everybody they love is okay. Right. So, like, if, seeing, like, their children have an opportunity to do something that they just, like, want to do and love, like, they want to nurture it as best they can. Yeah. And that's how he was, where he was just like, cool, you love stand-up, you're fucking funny, like, do it. Yeah. And so he would...
We're all just dust in the wind, so do the thing you want to do while you can. Yeah.
And so when I started, I used to call him. I'd like walk to shows and I'd be like, I'm on my way to this show. I'm like freaking out. I don't know what to do. Like, tell me I'm funny. And he'd be like, yeah, you're funny. And he'd always do it. I tried it one time with my mom, and my mom was like, she said some passive aggressive shit. Like, my daughters are just so awful to me. And I was like, put dad on the phone. Like, I can't fucking do this. This is ridiculous. This is why I don't call you. But as I was getting like more and more, I was getting booked more, and I was getting better, and I was, getting these new opportunities. And he was like, that's like, you're doing this. Like, this is very cool. And he would like call me sometimes and be like, oh, I was watching Good Day Sacramento when I saw this person is doing this show. Like, do you know them? And I'd be like, yeah, I know them. Like, those are my friends. Cool. Yeah. And so like, he always like kept up with what was going on in like the Sac comedy scene. Yeah. So when I would get new jobs, I would call him. I'd be like, I got this new job offer. I'm going to go do this thing. And he'd be like, well, can you still do stand-up? Like, is that going to work? Like, he was very much just like, if you can't do stand-up, like, don't change what you're doing because it's not going to make sense. Right. So, and I remember I was working at a country club. I was working at the salon inside the club, and I wasn't making enough money. And I'd been working there for a long time. And when I would take time off to like come visit my dad, they would still call me. And like, my parents lived off the grid, so like I would have to leave my dad's home number with the office so that they could call me if they needed me. Yeah. And I remember one time I got there, they called me like 3 times to ask me questions about stuff, and my dad was fucking heated. He was like, are you salaried? I was like, no. He was like, are you getting paid to take these calls? I was like, no. He was like, you need a raise. And I was like, yeah, okay, dad, like whatever. And then a few days later, he called me. He was like, how's your job going? I'd be like, oh, it's going okay. And he was like, have you gotten a raise yet? No. Did you ask for one? No. He was like, you're gonna need to ask for one. And I was like, okay, well, I can't do that. And he was like, yes, you can do it. He was like, you go in, you sit down with your boss, you say, hey, this is what I'm giving you, this is what I'm making, this is what I deserve, how are we gonna get there? And I was like, I can't do that. And he was like, you're gonna do it. And I fucking did it. And I went in, and I sat down with a list. I was like, these are the things that I provide for this company. I'm making minimum wage right now. I feel like my skills could be better utilized somewhere else. So if I can't be compensated fairly, then I'm gonna have to take my work elsewhere. Like, I'm not going to be benefiting this company anymore without being paid fairly. And they fucking did it. They gave me a raise, and I called my dad, and I was like, I got a raise. He was like, yeah. And I was like, they just gave it to me. And he was like, no, you asked for it. People don't just give you raises if you don't ask for them. They don't care about you like that. And I was like, oh shit. Man.
It's just a rare moment where an old white guy's teaching you how to be a strong black woman.
Yeah, but like also it was just so funny because he said it with like the certainty of like having like a white son. Like I really just felt like he was like giving me advice like I was just like this, this like 25-year-old white kid, white man going into his white boss and being like, I'm gonna need more money.
Well, and it is sort of like the weird like it is sort of like that weird like white ignorance to that type of a situation where it's like, you want a raise, go in and ask for a raise.
Yeah, exactly. But like also that's what was like the full circle for me is I was like, oh, this is like how we're conditioned as women, especially like women of color, to just believe that we're not entitled to even ask.
Right.
And so, like my dad definitely gave me that advice from a privileged point of view.
Sure.
But I still did it and it fucking worked.
Yeah.
So like how many times are we just not like championing for ourselves
100%
because there's nobody to be like, just fucking do. What are they gonna say? They're gonna say no. Okay, they say no, you stay there or you go somewhere else. But if you don't ask, they're not just gonna come to you and be like, oh, did you want to make more money? Here's more money. Like they're not gonna fuck with their profit margin like that.
You definitely need to hang out with Scott more. That's Scott's biggest problem.
I know.
He needs to he
just needs to be asking.
He's so talented and he's so funny. Yeah.
It's the trip.
Oh man. Well, this is part of the show where we bring it in for a landing. You've already shared so many wonderful stories about your dad. So many amazing stories. I always like to end it on a dad-anecdote. So do you have like a favorite dad story? Is there?
Oh man, I've told so many of my favorite stories about him.
Yeah. And if you need a second to think about it through the miracle of editing, I can make it sound instantaneous.
I'll tell. This is my favorite thing that my dad did.
Okay.
When we were living at the house on Bela Street in Fremont, he set up a swing set for me in the garage. And like my favorite thing in the whole world, like from a very young age, were cherry tomatoes. Like I've always loved cherry tomatoes.
Yeah.
They're like my favorite vegetable. I love them so much. So he planted a cherry tomato bush next to my swing set. Aww. So that I would be able to like go out and like play however much I wanted, swing on the swings, go down the slide, whatever, but that I'd always have snacks.
Aww.
And so like that's like my favorite thing. And even like so even as an adult, whenever I would go home, if he knew I was coming, he would always make sure that there was like a little like container of cherubs so that I always had cherry tomato. Just like my favorite thing. So I think that's my favorite thing about my dad. Is so like even now I always have them and I always think of him because they're just like so good.
What a good dude.
He was
Becky,
the best.
You've been amazing today. Thank you so much for doing this. If people want more Becky Lynn in their life, where should they go? Where should they find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram. My handle is that's Becky. That's OHTHATSBCKY. Like, oh, that's Becky because I'm black and it's the thing I hear a lot. My website is that'sbecky.com. It has all my upcoming shows and ticket links and my bio. And there's like a 15-minute video if you want to check out my comedy if you've never seen it before. Yeah. And my Venmo is that's Becky too. Send me $1. I'll give you a smiley face.
Hell yeah, Danny and I already want to have you back up to headline. So
I'd love that.
We'll be back up here soon enough. So thanks again for doing this.
Thank you. This was fun.
It was fun. And we're back. Becky Lynn, everybody. She's great. If you get a chance to see her live, do it. I'm going to have her back out to headline hopefully in the next few months. She just blew me away. She's such a talented comic. And that's it for this week. Next week I'm going to try to get my friend I got my friend Kelly Ryan coming out from Los Angeles to do some shows. I'm going to be doing a show with her actually this Saturday. I'm doing 2 spots this Saturday, one with Katrina, the other with Kelly Ryan at Mystic Music in downtown Fresno. That's January 25th. So if you want to see a bunch of fun comedy in a cool setting, Mystic Music is it's a music repair store. And they sell stuff too, but like the walls are just covered in like old weird guitars and there's amps stacked up everywhere. It's a really, really cool venue. I really, really love it. It's really intimate too. Like the audience is just right up on the stage. It's like comedy's the best, man. When you can just like touch the top of the head of the closest audience member. I love it. So yeah, check that out. Follow me on social medias at Dave Abkarian on all the things, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and then iTunes. You can rate and review on iTunes. I'd love you forever. And then there's a Sad Dad Patreon if you want to help me out with some of the hosting fees. Trying to get back to a more regular posting schedule with this podcast. Sorry, it's just this 2020 has been kicking my dick in so far. It's just been running around like an insane human being, but things are starting to stabilize now, and I'm hoping to get back to a regular release schedule. And I got some great comics that are going to be coming up to do my shows, and hopefully I can steal them for an hour or so to record a Sad Dad while I'm at it. So, all right, guys, that's it. Adios.